This is Miss Van, and in today's lesson, we're just going to go through box plots, five number summary, as well as how to find outliers for your box plot. All right, now box plot is normally once you get it, would be the easiest thing ever. Um, but normally my students, they either know how to find by hand or how to find it using CAS. Now, it is really important for you to know both how to find five number summary, outliers, and draw box plot by hands, as well as how to get it on your CAS. All right, so in today's lesson, we will kind of go through it as quick as we can. Okay. All right, so box plot technically is a graphical display for your five number summary that that is generated from your data set. Okay, so before you do anything, first thing first, you need to make sure is that your data is arranged in ascending order, which is from lowest to highest. All right, so I've already done it for you, so you don't have to worry about it. All right, so I've got my set of data here. Now, your five number summary would include a minimum, your Q1, your Q2, which is your median, your Q3, as well as your maximum. All right, so to find the position of your median, you would use n plus 1 divided by 2, where n is the number of your data set. So how many data points are there? All right. So in here, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 data point. So you would go 9 plus 1 divided by 2. And if you calculate it, it would be 10 divided by 2. And that would give me 5. All right, my 5 looks a little bit funny. Let me just fix it. All right, so the position of your median, it's 5. Now, the very common mistakes that most student would make is that once they found the position, they would think that this number 5 is the median, but it's actually not. All right. This number 5 would tell you that the median is actually in the 5th position. Okay, so this is why it's really important for you to arrange your data from low to high at the very start. And then you would count which number it's in the 5th position. So you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So my number 8 here, it's in the 5th position. Therefore, this number 8, it's my Q2 or what's so called the median. So once I found my median, I would then go to find my Q1 and Q3. Okay. So what does my median do? Once I've got my median, it would cut my data into two sets, all right, of 4 over here. Now, once you've found your median, you need to make sure that your median actually divided your data set into 2 equal set of number. All right, as you can see here, I've got 4 on my left and 4 on my right. So that sounds about right. All right, now how do I find my Q2? Q2 is simply the median of my lower set. All right, and Q3, it's also just simply the median for my upper set. So for these 4 numbers over here. All right, so let's go and find the median of my lower set, which is my Q1. So you will repeat everything the same as how you find your Q2 earlier. So we will still use n plus 1 divided by 2 to find the position of the median. All right, so my n here wouldn't be 9 anymore because I only have 4 on my data set here, which is my lower set. So I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. All right, so I've got 4 plus 1 divided by 2. That would give me 5 divided by 2. That would give me 2.5. All right, and again, the number 2.5 here is not your median or Q1, but it's simply just the position of where your Q1 locates. All right. Now, what does that mean when it's 2.5 position? All right. It is It means that it's between the second and the third number in your lower set. All right. So how do I find it? So I'm gonna go and find my second and my third number. So of all these four numbers, this is my first one, this is my second one right here, and this is my third one. So my 2.5 position of the number would be between the 5 and the 6. Right? Easier for you to tell here because simply, the number between 5 and 6 is just 5.5. But if it's, just too hard for you to do mental math, all you need to do is just take 5 plus 6 divided by 2. Put that in your calculator. You would get 11 divided by 2. Then you would get 5.5. All right. Then you would know that my Q1 is 5.5. Drop a comment below if it doesn't make any sense to you or where did I lose you so I can come back and answer your questions. All right. So I'll put my Q1 over here. So to find my Q3, everything is the same. All right. The same process as just different set of data. All right. Now I know that on my upper set of data, I also have 4 numbers. All right. And if I repeat the process of finding the median of the 4 numbers, I would get the same answer. So now I know that for my upper set, my Q3 would also be in a 2.5 position, which is between the second and the third number. All right. So if you look at my upper set over here, my second number is a 10 and my third number is a 13. Okay, it's a bit hard for me to do it to do mental math right here. So what do? All I need to do is take my second, which is a 10, plus my third number, which is a 13, and then divide it by 2. Then let your calculator do the work, which you would get 23 divided by 2, and your calculator would hopefully give you 11.5. So then now I know that my Q3 is 11.5. Okay, so now I'm going to pop it to my list of my 5 number summary, which is 11.5. There we go. All right, so now I've got my 5 number summary of this whole data set is a 3, a 5.5, an 8, 11.5, and 25. Okay, so we found our 5 number summary. Okay, now if in your question it asks you to draw a box plot and include any outliers if there are any, you would need to then find your outliers before you draw the actual box plot. So how do we find our outliers? All right, so these are my 5 number summaries. So I've got a minimum over here. This is my Q1, this is my Q2, this is my Q3, and this is my maximum. All right, so to find my outliers, these are the 3 related formulas. Okay, so whenever you need to find an outliers, I would need you to have a default thinking and you need to remind yourself straight to IQR, lower fence, and upper fence. All right, so outliers, lower fence, and upper fence, they are all related. Okay. All right, so how do I find my IQR? All you need to do is just, to follow the formula. So Q3 minus Q1, which is 11.5 minus 5.5, that would give me 6. And then you will need to go and find your lower fence, which is Q1 minus 1.5 times your IQR. My Q1 is 5.5 minus 1.5 times my IQR, which is 6. And you're going to pop that into your calculator and hopefully your calculator would give you negative 3.5. All right, and then I would go and find my upper fence, which is Q3 of 11.5 plus 1.5 times my IQR of 6, which would then give me 20.5. Okay, so I know my lower fence is negative 3.5 and my upper fence is 20.5. And note my lower fence is negative 3.5. And my upper fence is 20.5. Okay, so what do these two fences do? So negative 3.5 is like somewhere here. Okay, if you look at it as in a number line, so negative 3.5 is somewhere over there, and then 20.5 is somewhere in between here. Okay, so these two fences would act like two borders of your data set, which mean that any data points that fall outside these two fences would be an outlier. Okay, which is any data point that are lower than negative 3.5 or higher than 20.5 would consider to be an outlier. And if we see in our data set, we've got a 25 over here, which is way higher than my upper fence of 20.5. So then I know that my outliers is then a 25. Okay. So why do I need to find my outliers after my 5 number summary and before my box plot? Because it would change how your box plot would look like. Okay, your 5 number summary stay the same regardless of your outliers. All right, so your 5 number summary is still a 3, 5.5, 8, 11.5, and 25. But you know that your outlier is a 25, which is your maximum. So how does it going to look like? All right, let's just go through it. Let's go through it together. So to draw a box plot, before you draw the actual box plot yourself, you would need to have a number line, okay, which looks like that. So when you need to draw the number line yourself, all right, if your SAC doesn't give the whole number line for you, or if the exam doesn't give it to you, and when you need to draw the actual number line, one thing you need to make sure is that the distance between these intervals are the same. Okay, you can't have one that's way too long. You can't have that one that way too short. So using your ruler and measure the distance between these intervals are really important because they need to be the same. All right, now the next important part is to choose your intervals. How much is it going to go up by? All right, now that decision will based on what are your values over here. Okay, I've got a 3, 5.5, 8, somewhere like that. So I might go up by 2. Okay, so because if I'm going like going up by 5, my box plot would then be very clustered. Okay, so I'm just gonna show you just in case. So I've got if I'm doing, you know, if I'm doing it by 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, for example, that is not wrong, but that will make your box plot look very clustered. Because if you can see your Q1, Q2 is 5.5 and 8, and you only have this much space for those two values to fit in. So you can just imagine that it would look really really clustered. That's the only word I can use. All right, so then I'm going to go by 2. All right, you don't have to start by 0. You can just go by 2. Just depends on what your minimum would be. Just depends on what your minimum would be. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Just bear with me here. Now, normally I would just stop here. Okay, because my maximum is just 25 only. So there's no point of me to keep on going. But because I've got my number line, which is too long here, and it's just easier for me to keep on going than erase it, then I'm just going to keep on going. Now, if you accidentally just draw a long number line like me, and you just don't have enough time to like erase it or redraw it, just keep on drawing. Okay, but don't leave it blank. Do not leave your intervals, your little dash line blank without any number because it just looks a little bit wrong. All right, so now I've got my number line and I'm going to go and draw my box plot. I would then start with my outliers. Okay, so my outlier is 25, so it would be just a little cross right here. Now your outlier and your maximum is the same number, okay, which can't be. So that would then bring your maximum down to the second highest number. It doesn't show on your 5-number summary, but it will have to show on your box plot. So then your the end of the whisker would have to be 13. And then I'll draw my minimum to be a 3. All right, so I would start with drawing the maximum and the minimum to be 2 dots. Then I would then go and draw my Q1, Q2, and Q3. All these 3 Qs would be in a line. So my Q1 is 5.5, just somewhere here. I'm trying to be as concise as possible. My Q2, it's an 8, another line, and my Q3, it's 11.5, so somewhere here. Okay, now that I've got my 2 lines, I would then go and connect these 3 lines to make a box. All right. Once I'm done that, I'm just going to go and connect my minimum to my Q1 and my maximum to my Q3 to make a whisker. There you go. That's your box plot. Now, one common mistakes that I see people make in their PAS exam is that they draw the actual lower fence and upper fence on their box plot. So they would go somewhere like -3.5 and they would do 20.5 as the lower fence. So that's these 2 lines. Please don't do that. You don't need to do that. The lower fence and the upper fence would just be 2 imaginary fence. So you don't really need to do it on your box plot. All right. Actually, if you draw it on your actual box plot, you might get marks off because the VCA assessor would then see it as you don't understand what a box plot should look like and you don't really understand the function of the lower fence and the upper fence. Okay, so just don't put it up there. Okay. All right. Now, that's how we do it by hand. All right. So as I said, it's really important for you to know how to do it by hand as well as how to do it on your CAS. Okay, so now we are going to learn how to find our 5-number summary as well as our box plot using your CAS calculator. Okay, I'm just going to give you some time to take a screenshot of these 2. So this is how you find your 5-number summary. And this is how you find your box plot. Okay, so take a screenshot of that. And then I would need to go to my CAS screen. All right, so I did it before, but I'm just going to refresh it. All right, so Control N everything. So on your CAS, when you Control N, which is bring it to the new documents, you're going to press At Least in Spreadsheet. And then here you would need to name your column because if you don't name it, your CAS wouldn't read anything. I'm just going to name this as X. Okay. And then I'll go and I'll enter my all of my data points into my calculator. All right, I've got a 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 25. Once I'm done entering all of my data values, I'm just going to need to go up and down, all right, at least 2 times to make sure that I've got the right data and the right number of data, okay, before it's too late. So once I'm done entering my data, I'm going to find my 5-number summary. I'll go Menu, Statistics, Stat Calculation, 1 Variable, Press OK, and then you need to choose your list, the one that you named. Press OK. All right, now they have all different values, which will go through what each of values representing, but for now we only care about our 5-number summary. Okay, so if you're going down to the list, you would see minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and maximum. All right, so that is our 5-number summary. All right, I then need to go and find my box plot. So to draw my box plot, so go to my home button, this little pink, add variable, that's my X. This is my dot plot. All right, go plot type and press on box plot. All right, now you can see that the interval is the same. These are my minimum Q1, Q2, Q3, 13. Doesn't say maximum 13. That's my outlier over there. Okay, so why is it so important for you to know how to do it on CAS? Because it takes so much shorter than if you do it on by hand. Okay, and especially when you do your multiple choice question in exam 1, we also care about the speed of how we answer the questions. Now that we've gone through the whole process of how to do it by hand and how to do it on your CAS, maybe so now it's your turn to actually do it. All right, so I've got a second example over here. If you want to give it a go and you want my feedback, you feel free to send me a message on the page for feedback, or drop a comment down below if you have any question as well. I'm happy to answer it. All right, I will see you guys in the next lessons. Bye.